you know, don't go around the mountain, go through it. You know, they literally, it was, you know, I was destined to fail. You know, I honestly think that maybe I was a little bit more creative than what they understood back then. So, you know, they just couldn't handle me and they put me in there, but I found ways.
Hey there, welcome back to another episode of American Snippets. I'm your co-host, Barb Allen, and anybody who knows me personally knows that the only thing I'm probably least qualified to talk about than women's fashion is men's fashion. But I'm going to go there a little bit today anyway, only because I am guided by an expert, somebody who is making that men's fashion into a mission, which I love. What we can speak on is our aligned mission, right? Pocket Square Heroes is designed as men's fashion. I'm stumbling over this because I'm unfamiliar with the fashion world, right? But its purpose is to connect like-minded people, which I love this line, in a sea of business suits and khaki pants, right? It's a way for you guys to identify each other, kind of like when you're driving Jeep down the road, you get the Jeep wave, right? Now you guys can be cruising through the sea of business suits and see the Pocket Square. I know that you are like-minded individuals. It's a conversation starter. It's a way to get people talking about something that we all believe in here, is patriotism and common unity and all the things that go with it. Chris Costa, we're so glad to have you here today. Our paths have crossed sort of in the past, like here and there, and now we finally get to lock you down and share the story. Pocket Square Heroes is something that's unique and it's making its mark, and I'm sure it's been a slow grind, and we love the fact that you are staying with it and forging forward in a world that is not easy to break into. Let's talk today about your story, about what Pocket Square Heroes is, why it matters to you, and why your mission and your message should really matter to all of us in this country. Are you down?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. And you are fresh out of Fox News studio this morning.
Yes. Finally.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm grateful.
Yeah.
We've really only been pushing it as a real business for a year. So that's a pretty cool achievement to be recognized like that.
Yeah. To go from a year to, a platform like Fox News, that almost constitutes an overnight success in the scheme of things, right? But you wouldn't think about it, but a year in the terms of entrepreneurship is like a day, in life. It just baby steps, man, baby steps. But so you were born and you started walking right away. Good for you. Mm-hmm. Tell us about Pocket Square Heroes and do a better job explaining it than I just did.
Well, Pocket Square Heroes, the elevator tag.
Yeah.
Pocket Square Heroes are the world's first patriotic and award-inspired fashion accessory for veterans, patriots, and first responders. They're designed to foster the pride of belonging, to teach civil military understanding, and provide a pathway to get our national heroes back and circulating in civilian life.
Quite the mission for a Pocket Square. Yeah. So how does one, and I see them behind you, but explain to people who are not on the video or may not have heard of it, what the product is.
Well, the product is a silk pocket square where we printed military medals, awards, icons, and patriotic symbols on different silk pocket squares. And you can fold them any way you want to. I happen to like the presidential fold, which you'll see behind me is just a nice straight line. And that really shows what medal it is, what kind of icon it is. It's out of polyester. So, the fashion world is not friendly to made in America. It's very hard. Yeah.
So that's interesting. I'm going to come back to that just because I'm curious.
Sure.
Okay. So, and then we got especially some chicks listening who are as fashionably challenged as I am, maybe explain what a pocket square itself is.
All right. A pocket square is not a handkerchief by any means. A handkerchief you blow your nose in.
Yeah.
I really hope you wouldn't blow your nose in this. If you did, you'd be doing push-ups for the rest of your life. Um, a pocket square is just a decorative item that you would stick inside the breast coat of a gentleman's jacket, and it breaks up the palate. Nowadays, with fashion, the pocket square is not supposed to match the tie. It's supposed to be sort of contradicting. It shows that a man has attention to detail, and is fashion conscious. So that's the history of the pocket square in a nutshell. To be honest, I never thought in a million years I would be having anything to do with fashion like this. It just happened. So
it just happened. Yeah. All right. So tell us everything you just said. I had like three things I wanted to ask. I'll probably forget them, but tell us how it happened.
All right. So about around 2013, I was working in a law enforcement capacity, and I got into a really bad car accident. I popped some discs in my cervical spine, sort of dislocated my collarbone from the seatbelt. And I went through that process of healing, and it was back 2013. So we had all the reports of the rising suicide rates. We had all the reports, it's still at the same time, all the reports of, our soldiers passing daily. I mean, it was like 8, then 10, then 15. You hear about the Marines and the Army. Yeah. So here I was sitting on the sofa feeling sorry for myself, thinking that my law enforcement career was over when this is happening in the world. So I fostered that energy, and I knew that with the suicide rate, I wanted to do something. I always knew that I would do something. Having served in the Marine Corps myself, I was in a long time ago. I was in from 94 to 97. So it was quiet at that time. I was an infantryman in 0311. We did deploy, but not under any kind of war conditions or stuff like that. It was just standard, as they call it, Victor unit deployments. So it's just floating around and doing a pump to Okinawa, went to Korea. But back to the where it came from. When I saw the veteran suicide stuff, I'm just guessing, and I'm saying, you need to be active. You need to get back out there. You can't sit at home. You can't stare at the wall. I mean, like I said on Fox today, these guys were, and gals were moving at 100 miles a second. Now all of a sudden you're back here. You don't feel like you're responsible for anything. You lost, you might've been in charge of, a $2 million, supply house of weapons and all this stuff. Now you're just sitting at home. Yeah. Staring at the wall. The voices start. Well, if I can prevent that from happening and get you into social activities right away, as soon as I can, and if I can do that with a pocket square, we've done it. The voices go away. You're going to meet somebody like I met you. I met you and Dave over a pocket square.
That's totally true. And I had seen it before, like before I ran into at the green room at Fox, right? And I was like looking at you, trying to figure out where the heck I knew you. And I saw the pocket square, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. That guy has a thing that I read about, right? Because I had so much going through my mind, but it registered with me that I knew it. And so I was thinking about it. And as I dialed upon it, and then I heard you say it, it was great to connect it all together. And like, what are the odds that I would just bump into you there like that, having had at least some pre-knowledge of your product and what you do. So for the people who are sitting here saying, how the heck does a pocket square translate into getting people out of their isolation and into social activities? What is your answer to that?
My answer to that would be back when I did start it, back around 2014, like I was saying, I was feeling sorry for myself. And I was searching through the internet looking at just suit and tie combinations to figure out how to pick out a tie so I looked good. And I saw this pocket square. It was purple and it just had stripes on it. I'm like, that looks like a military ribbon. And I started, they got to have these. So I started searching around. Nope, nobody had it. So I ran to the store and got some iron-on stuff, and I was making a big mess in my house. And I did one that looked like the National Defense Medal, and it was hilarious. It was just hilarious, but it looked really, really good. So I started digging into it more, and I was finishing up my business degree, and I would use it as a fake company all the time. So I had a professor that told me, you need to do something with this. It's just going to get flooded. It's going to be all over Canal Street, in other words. Uh-huh. So we went ahead and I did a design patent on it to protect it from, foreign invasion. And that worked out well for us. So then I started working on it, and I didn't really think it was going to be a huge business. So over time, just recently last year, I had to pay the patent fee, and it was like $1,000. So I looked at my wife and I said, okay, time to put up or shut up. Let's see what happens. Yeah. So we went bananas, and it just, the response from the veteran community and first responders and everybody else has been just so great. We go to so many events, and I love stuffing the pocket square into somebody's pocket. It's like powerful, it's, probably a lot of female, like not even, a lot of family members would have not been present when maybe their son, their daughter, their husband received a medal. They might have had that formation real quick. They might have got that award and never had the opportunity to have a family member present. Now that family member can go and relive that by giving something that might mean so much to somebody.
Yeah, that's cool. And, especially as veterans, law enforcement, first responders, whoever that may be, go out there outside of that community where they're working in to work among the civilian community, and they have to change their uniform, change their attire. It's such a unique way for them to still be able to carry that pride and that patriotism and that service into the office with them. Most of the patriotic apparel that you see is like patriotic apparel or t-shirts or something. This is like kind of subtle and sexy and classy, and you get to just wear it and still meet the dress code trends. It's so that's, I can't imagine that I've seen anything else out there that fits that, other than, people can wear their pins or something, but
some guys don't want to put some guys and some gals, they don't want to put holes in the jacket.
Yeah, exactly. Especially the chicks. I see you're coming in there with the scarves there.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So it's a little harder to accessorize that patriotic element in a female, I think, in a business capacity. But I think the scarves, especially for those of us who live out here on the East Coast where it gets cold and you have occasion to bundle up a little, like that's kind of a cool way to do it. Right now, the only patriotic things I think the scarves for women are the like big scarves where you have to know what the heck you're doing and tie it all around and make it fit, right? But those are like
they're like about 26, 26, 27 square. And, you can roll them up real small. You can drape them. You can, the ladies wrap them in their hair and let it fall down somehow. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'll tell you, It was hurt trying to figure this one out because it's polyester chiffon gauge, which is like, I guess, lacy or something. So
I don't know. I'm sorry.
This one about got me because silk in the United States at cost to try to make sure that every veteran can benefit from owning one if they want one.
Yeah,
it's hard to keep those numbers down. So we went with the polyester. Even the printing process, it's just hard. It's just not done in the United States. So I had to get very creative and figure it out. So
what was your creative solution?
I went through an enormous amount of polyester fabric until I found one that would be soft. It's going on your neck, so it's got to be soft, and it has to drape right. It can't wrinkle too easy. So I found a company that had that here in the U.S., and then we go through the dye sublimation process, which is they print out paper and they heat press it right to the thing. A lot of the t-shirt companies probably utilize the same type of technology, and it becomes a gas and it goes right into the polyester, and it won't fade and it won't run. And it's this fabric still held its softness, and it still held all that stuff. Then I found recently, even with the pocket squares, too crazy. You know where Passaic, New Jersey is, right?
I do.
It's like, yep, right down the road. So 2 Marine Corps veteran brothers cut and sew facility. I mean, it's huge. And it just so turns out they're like not even a mile from me.
What?
And, yep. These 2 guys, one's a retired gunnery sergeant, the other one's a retired sergeant. And the cut and sew facility's been in their family since the 40s. Mm-hmm. And I can't believe this. This is like, trying to keep it in the hands of, the group.
Yeah.
It worked out well. Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Like, again, what are the odds of that happening? Hey, I'm going to open a pocket square company. I need this service here. And then there's one right there. That's awesome. That is awesome. So who works with you? Who else is in this company? And how did you all get together?
Right now in this company, the only people that I would have is myself, me, and I.
Yeah.
Well, my wife, of course. I would not be anywhere near, the...
Good save there. Good save, Chris.
No, it's...
No, I know. Yeah,
it's absolutely...
That's great. I asked that question because I think it's cool for people to be reminded that you don't have to have this giant staff. You can do things on your own. Certainly, given the choice, a lot of us would have that assistant and have that person and have that company. But until you do, or unless you do, it is completely 100% possible to create, design, build, and grow something as a person of one. And I know a lot of the people out there, the influencers, the top business leaders, they all say, delegate, find someone to do this, find someone to do that. And that's all well and good, but that's not always possible as well, right? So you are the other side of that coin. You are the person doing it all, a one-man show. What is that like? Was there an area, like what's one of the biggest struggles you face being your own company of one, and what are some upsides of it?
The upside is that I can, I always try to do my best to over deliver. So like, the pocket squares are folded at one point and I'm opening them up and I'm looking for what in the Marine Corps we call Irish pendants. I go bananas with the Irish pendants. The Irish pendants are those little strings that hang off.
Oh, good.
If there's any other Marines out there, they'll be dying.
Yeah, they'll know.
So, I start snipping all the Irish pendants. I mean, if they're even a hair off, I'm able to control that. So, someone might not see that or realize it. They used to make us turn our uniforms inside out in the Marine Corps and snip the little strag. Yeah, it was just torture. So, that's a plus side. I get to see the product as it goes out. I get to see it as it comes in. I get to do all those stages of it. But for growth, now here's your down point.
Yeah.
It needs to be passed on. So that's what Gunnery Sergeant Monaco and Dominic Monaco, he's a retired sergeant. They're going to be doing it, all the shipping, sewing, packaging, and everything coming up here real soon. And that's going to leave me the ability to work on marketing. And now after the holidays here, we're looking to, the way the forecast looks, we should be able to hire somebody, at least part-time, to help us out. And then, of course, it's going to be a vet, so it has to be. Yeah, so that
or a military spouse, you can, open up a little bit. I'm a big advocate, right? And don't forget the gold stars. So I'm going to come after you. I'm going to take your company. I'm like, you should really do this. You could just smack me virtually anytime you want. But
speaking of that, I actually had him for a little while. She was a soldier. Her son was a soldier, and he just recently came back from Africa. They were out there deployed.
Wow.
So but she couldn't handle it anymore. She had to take on more hours at her current job. So, that's the bigger job. One day. Very soon.
Yeah, you'll get there. So speaking of Christmas and holidays, with these make a great gift for a veteran, people know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you have some that are non-veteran specific, correct?
Yes. Bunch of American flags. We actually have a Shimaga pattern. So there's different. A Shimaga is like, you ever see the tactical scarf that all the Afghan and Iraq vets wear?
Okay.
It's kind of like, it has the tassels on it.
All right, yeah.
So with this, we have a pocket square that has those different tribal patterns and stuff like that. that you would see in Afghanistan or Iraq. So I have two versions of that, a black and white one and an OD green one. The flags, anybody can wear the blue line, support, your local law enforcement, support your firefighters. There's a yellow line, support your dispatchers and emergency responders that are like the ambulance drivers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're going to be putting out an OD green one. We have a subdued one, black and gray. So you know what it is? It's endless.
Yeah.
Endless.
A lot of variations you could do. So speaking of 9/11 and knowing you live in Jersey area there, were you a part of responding to Ground Zero in that way any day? Just out of curiosity.
Yes, we were. Of course, many did much more. It was, I actually at that time took the train in to the World Trade Center that day from right here from Clifton. Jumped on the train to, I think it was maybe to Hoboken. And then from Hoboken went into the World Trade Center. Yeah. That was maybe about 45 minutes before. And at the time, I was posted a little further down, actually uptown, about 5 blocks. So when the first plane hit, one of the supervisors came out of the office and they say, everybody go down to the World Trade Center. It just got hit by a plane. And then we went downstairs. There was a child care facility. We assisted the child care workers. Parents would come in, picking up children. So we just helped them for a little while. Then we started heading down to, I was in a suit and tie. I didn't have any kind of first responding gear. Yeah. So we walked down there to see what we could do. We kind of hovered about a block up, about 2 blocks up. There's on Church Street, you have that very old post office. Uh-huh. So we hovered in that area. The fire department was everywhere. They were just yelling at people to get uptown. So shortly thereafter, the buildings fell. We stayed to do what we could do. Then we went back to our office. We were able to get out of the suit and ties. And later on that evening, we were on what they call the bucket brigade, where everybody stood on, the rubble. And, it was just 5-gallon paint jugs that went up and down. So it was actually, there was only a few buckets. So there was actually boulders being handed hand to hand. And then like every couple minutes, the building behind us, somebody would yell and then everybody would run because we thought that building was going to fall next. It was surreal. It was surreal.
Yeah. So my husband was in the National Guard and we're in New York. So his unit was the first National Guard unit to respond to Ground Zero. So he was there for weeks, and I remember that day, right as I'm home, at the time we had 3 little children, but one was just a month old and the other was like 1-year-old and 2-year-old, something. And everybody's like screaming and running home. And my husband comes home from his job as a teacher, grabs his gear and leaves to go into the city where, hell was breaking loose, right? So you're a young mom and you're there and you're looking at that. But he ultimately, when he returned and came back, it was literally the one thing he just couldn't speak about. But it changed him. It changed him in ways, and he talked about how it changed him, but he couldn't speak about, specifics because he didn't want to do that. So I have huge respect for everybody who responded that day. Maybe you worked a bucket brigade alongside him. Who knows?
You never know. It was actually crazy. There was a guy that was directly across from me. He had a riot helmet on and a T-shirt, said 300 Bench Press Club.
Well, that would not have been my husband.
I'm looking at this guy, and we're in New York City now. I look at this guy. It was one of my first partners from my first law enforcement job, standing right there. I hadn't seen him in probably 5 years.
That's wild.
It was wild to share that experience with him because we just looked at each other and just shook our heads. We were in disbelief.
Yeah. How can you possibly wrap your mind around something with that magnitude? So here, and we won't go too deep into, we'll get back to it, but as it is obviously the anniversary of 9/11 tomorrow, what now in terms of what you're doing now? Do you feel like that's in any way a ripple effect of that day? Or, how, remember on September 12th that year, how united everybody was and how patriotic this whole country was and how there was just a feeling of unity that seems like it was here to stay, right?
Yes.
After that. And now not so much, right? So do you feel like these pocket squares are in some way just like an opening, a step forward, an invitation to recreate that?
I do. I do. There's a lot of things that I feel about the pocket squares. One would be the connecting the vets. One would be the ability for a friend, a loved one, to be able to gift something like that. That's so emotional, I think. And the other side of it too is I'm all about this. Teach your kids. Let's make sure we don't lose our history, which I believe is what almost happened with the Betsy Ross flag.
Yeah.
And all the big veteran apparel companies stepped up and they said, no, that's not what this represents. Great video, Mr. Wonderful from the Shark Tank. He goes ahead and he says, dead up. Nike did this. This was an ingenious marketing plan.
It was. It was.
Mm-hmm. They know the customer.
Yeah.
So they knew that it would create the increase in sales.
And it did. It did.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people who said, "Oh, Nike's doomed. They should have never done that." And we were like, "Oh, are you kidding?" I'm like, we don't agree with it, but in terms of a business, it was genius because we're still talking about it. You're sitting here right now. We're talking about that. It's something that just hats off to them for figuring that out. I guess you got to give props where props are due, even if you don't agree with it.
Oh, absolutely. It was pretty smart.
Yeah. So where do you see your company going in the next few years? Like if you could look ahead a year from now and say, this is where I'd like to be?
A year from now, I definitely would love to have a full-time veteran helping me out. Go forward. Definitely looking for your jack of all trades. Not necessarily sure if I'll find that person.
Yeah.
There's a possibility we may take the printing of the actual squares in-house so that we can get a little more custom. If we could do that with those printers, it would be really cool. Moving forward, I'm not 100% too sure. I have the pocket squares now. We have the scarves. I thought about taking those as brands and putting them underneath another company and adding additional like haberdashery related items, which is like your lapel pins, your cufflinks, your pens, like an actual pen, maybe some type of shoelaces, socks, and all that. But apparel, I'm not too sure. I like to do things that is different than no one else is doing, so I can carve my little spot and just stay relevant with everybody. So we do have a couple other little projects in the pipeline that aren't apparel related at all that are going to be really funny. So you have to wait.
Oh, I gotta wait. Fine, I'll wait. So in terms of apparel and fashion, like where did that come from? You're in the Marine Corps. Then you come out and you have this job in the law enforcement field, doing something super secret. And and so where does fashion tie into all of that? It's not like there's not really much overlap there.
It's a very, very easy question.
Okay.
I was a Marine. It's the best looking uniform in the military. Sorry, it just is.
It is a pretty nice looking uniform. I'm going to give you that. I'm going to give you that. The Marine Corps uniform
starts there.
Nice.
Yep. So, and then the Marine Corps was,
hilarious,
hardcore with all the dress aspect of it. I mean, again, I wasn't running around Afghanistan. I wasn't running around Iraq. Every 5 seconds, we had alphas and Charlies and all kinds of crazy inspections. It was, that was normal peacetime service during there. I didn't have to look around my shoulder every 5 seconds until I got out of the military.
Right.
So,
yeah. And then you chose that field.
Yep.
I have one friend of our family. He's very dear to us, and he is family to us. He's a former Marine. Once a Marine, you're always Marine, right? Like a gunny sergeant who was in for over 20 years in Vietnam and Iraq. He made it all the way through, or the Gulf War, up through there. And I can hear him. I'm making him listen to this one because I can hear him in my head when you're saying that. I can hear him going, ooh, rah, in his big, his big ooh, rah voice. So Monsoon, that one was for you. I'll hook you up with him. You'll love him. All right. So is there a moment that you came across? The entrepreneurial path is not an easy one. It's a tough crawl. And you said you've been really doing this for a year, and you got yourself on, on Fox, and on other platforms as well. Now you're on American Snippets, go you, right? But in terms of a year, people may think that's a forever or an eternity, right? So to that person who was looking to start their own company, to start their own business, who is on a timeline and says, I need to be making money at this in 2 months, or I need to be making money at 6 months. What are your thoughts for that? Like,
the thoughts on that? Yeah. What would the advice that I would give?
Yeah.
It would be, I don't believe in luck. I love that saying where it's 90% preparation, 10% opportunity. And if anybody knows how to be prepared, it's military veterans. And the push for the military entrepreneur is just incredible. I think that veterans can change the world. I think male spouses can change the world. There's just something that's inside that personality to overcome and adapt and, succeed. You gotta stay focused. I mean, we're all guilty of not being focused. But if you try to stay as focused as possible, keep pushing, networking is huge. Networking is huge. That's how I ended up today on the Fox and Friends. That's how I met you. If I wouldn't have gone with a customer who invited me to his gala, who then became a friend, who then was up in New York and said, come pick me up. I'm going to Fox, come to the green room. And then I ran into you. Yeah. And then another friend was on the live audience, and he bought a fistful of pocket squares and was stuffing Pete Hegseth and all the other anchors over there. And they loved it. And just snowballed. So
yeah, we talk about power of proximity all the time, and that's exactly it. And I could look at things I've done and places I've been where I should never be, right? Like, I got no business there, but actually I do, because I followed up on this and met this person, you build this relationship, you take that opportunity. And for everyone that pans out, there's, 6 or 7 more that just fall flat and are nothing, and got to kind of let those go, right? But that's a huge lesson and an important one. I know Pocket Square Heroes supports some charities, and I really want to get into that here for a second before we wind this up. What are some of those charities you support, and why do you support them?
One of the original charities was what was the name of it? It's it's been a while since I sent them anything. Project Sanctuary. Project Sanctuary is a retreat for returning Iraq veterans, and they have at different locations they hold like a retreat. It's a weekend where whoever the service member is, and then their spouse, and then possibly the children come, and everybody is taught how to deal with the stress. It was the way it was explained to me many years ago was they go ahead and they pull the spouse to the side. They say, this is why he's pacing all night long, walking guard duty. They pull the husband to the side, or they pull the service member, vice versa. And they say, this is why this person's acting this way. They bring the kids and they do exercises. I felt that to be able to concentrate on the family unit, it could provide some value, because keep it together. They had a very, very good, I haven't looked at their statistics in a while, but they had a very, very good, I think it was 0 suicides during all their cohorts that they had. And I think it was like 95% remained married.
Wow, that's huge. Yeah,
that's great. That's great. And then I was doing that for a little while, and the challenges of a startup. It's just, it's cash all over. So I kind of pulled back on saying exactly 10%. However, I'll be able to do stuff like an in-kind service. For example, I get calls for blind auctions. So I'm able to send some units of pocket squares so that they can hold their blind auctions at different events. I have to look at my notes, but there's been so many. I give so many of these pocket squares away. My wife's like, you need to stop.
Yeah.
You need to stop. I actually have the Medal of Honor pocket square. So every time I run into a Medal of Honor recipient, I
can't be like, that'll be $45, please. You feel like a jerk, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. But I'm going to need that's cash. We take checks and credit cards.
And then Silver Star, and then, with me, sometimes you might actually be one of the, I guess, lucky ones. I'll fill a pocket square order where there's like 2 or 3 pocket squares, and I'll be like, you forgot the American flag, and I'll just throw it in with a little note, I need to stop doing that, but you never know. You could get lucky,
You could. You never know. I love that. Okay. So if people want to find out more about how to get themselves a pocket square, how to reach out to you, maybe bring you on their show to talk and spread the mission, bring you to the group, whatever it is they would like to do to get in a little bit deeper with you and with pocket squares, how can they do that?
Well, you can find me on social media. It's very easy, just Pocket Square Heroes, or you can head over to the website, pocketsquareheroes.com.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. I am going to ask you one last quick question before we wind up. So what we do here at American Snippets is born from our own belief and our own experiences, as are all companies and businesses, right? Who start up their own company. But the American dream is something that's very important to us. It's something that we personally believe in, is alive and well, and can be achieved and is possible. And we're moving to kind of dispel the myth that's being spread in this country that things are terrible and opportunity is gone and all that. So we know the American dream is here. It's available. It's open to anybody who wants it, but it means something different to every single one of us. So we'd like to know, what does that American dream mean to you?
Well, that's going to go back really, really far from me. This is a good one. When I started school as a little kid, it might have been even kindergarten. They pulled my parents to the side. My parents were very young. My mother was like 18, 19 years old. My father was like 20, 21. So they pulled him to the side. They said, Chris has a learning disability. He's got all these mental problems. Okay. So they stuffed me in a room. Okay. With my best friend, go figure. Okay. So we were classified as learning disabled. Okay.
Yeah.
So I literally sat not in that same room, in different buildings for 12 years. Okay. 12 years. I wasn't held to one exam to advance to the next grade. Yep. I was pushed through. They said I had a learning disability. Okay. Because of being pushed through, I lost the ability to learn the standard, essential, functions that you would get. Like basic mathematics, okay, basic reading comprehension, and so on. So after all those 12 years, okay, I knew I needed to do something. All these kids were going to college. I'm like, I need to get out of here. I cannot stay here. So I took the ASVAB for the Marine Corps. I failed. Okay, I had to wait 30 days.
Yeah.
I took it again. I failed. Okay, then I had to wait 6 months. Okay. So thank God I was doing this during that delayed entry period where you can do it where you're still in school.
Right.
So I had some time. 6 months later, I found a teacher that knew, my situation, and went ahead and sat down. We bought the ASVAB book. We studied. Third time's a charm.
Yeah.
Okay. Third time's a charm. Passed it. The only thing I could pick was was infantry. That's it. I couldn't figure out the math that was associated with the gears or the mechanical side of it, although I was very mechanical. I just had to find ways to place this stuff and figure out ways to do it so that I could be successful. And so after getting out of school, going into the military, like I was saying, I was in from 94 to 97. Now I get out. I still don't have necessarily basic mathematics skills. I don't have, basic reading. Well, I got onto this trajectory of proving everybody wrong. I ended up with a degree in mathematics.
How did you do that?
Computers.
You taught yourself?
Yep.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, the website's all me. My Photoshop skills are getting better and better and better. Some of them are funny, but yeah. don't go around the mountain, go through it. They literally, it was, I was destined to fail. I honestly think that maybe I was a little bit more creative than what they understood back then. So, they just couldn't handle me and they put me in there, but I found ways and went into the military, got out, continued into a movie-like career in law enforcement. I cannot be even more thankful. And then that would lead me back to, the problems that I heard about the veteran suicide rate and everything else and wanting to connect guys. I think we need to patrol ourselves. And I think we also need to let civilians in. That's why I say this is civil military understanding. So.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. I'm so glad I asked that question. I don't know that I would have been able to dig into that with you. So you're there and you're just a child being told that you have a disability when, the education system is like rigid, right? And if you don't fit into how that's designed, but there's so many different minds out there and we all think differently. I did not do well, tests and all that. I was in the trailer behind school for a while. I was there. I did my time in that, in whatever, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Cause I just, my brain just doesn't process that stuff and it's just not how I'm built to think, but you got to find your own ways to think and your own way to get past that. Right. I love that you did that. So that serves as an example again, to anybody who is told you are one thing, you can't do it. Took you 3 times to get to the Marines, stayed the course, did it, and then taught yourself math. That is great.
That was like my first professional test I ever had in 12 years of school. I mean, everything was waived. The very first test
you took was the ASVAB.
Yup. Oh, yeah.
That's crazy. And I know that at least for a period of time, they were offering waivers for those who couldn't perform on the ASVAB.
Come on.
Yeah, they were. I know. And I have my own. I have the guy that killed my husband was given a waiver. So, so that's how I know this. I dig in. I don't speak out of I educated myself on that. So I know that for a little while that I don't know if they're still doing it, but they were offering some waivers for poor performance on the ASVAB, which is just ironic because you're the, and then you're the guy that was given the waiver. Why can't I say waiver? Why do I keep saying waiver? But whatever. You were given that thing in school and then you had to pass the ASVAB. On your own. That's extraordinary. Pretty cool.
So you're left-handed, huh?
I am not.
It looks like you're left. Oh no, you're right-handed. Okay.
That's a mirror effect. Yeah. I can do things. I can write with my left hand because I've mangled my arm so often that I had to become a little ambidextrous. Occasionally this one will be in a cast or that one will be in the cast. And so
oh boy.
Now I just wave them both around when they're not in a cast. All right. Look, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story with us today and for all you do. We are not that far apart. So I look forward to seeing you in the future and sharing your story with our community. If you're listening to this story, you're interested in Chris Costa and Pocket Square Heroes and what he does, reach out and grab him. He's super accessible, easy to talk to. This is something, if you're not a veteran or in the military or law enforcement or first responder, I can almost guarantee you know someone who is. And I'm pretty sure they would think that this is a pretty neat gift to be getting as we're approaching holiday season as well. So reach out, get that person in your life something special and support this excellent organization. Thank you so much.
Thank you.